Hello and welcome back to The Road to Doomsday, the MCU rewatch show brought to you by the Nerd Academy podcast. I am your host, Jared Bachman Stubbs, and joining me, as always, is the lovely Miss Taylor.
Hello.
And riding shotgun with us today is, like I said, much like how I did with
If he's
Travis.
shotgun, where's
No, no,
how
no, no, no. I'm not.
far?
I'm not shotgun. Taylor is definitely shotgun,
Yeah,
and
I was about to
I'm
say
the
where.
guy. I'm the guy that
Are
like
you in the
rides.
on the
I'm the guy who
console?
rides the hump in the back seat with his arms up on the seat in front, so I can hear what's going on in the front.
Like, yeah, like Donkey in Shrek 2 whenever they're going to Far, Far Away Kingdom.
That is such a perfect reference.
I
Um,
love it.
Special in terms of they're a special, wonderful human being. Not so special in terms of they work here at the Nerd Academy podcast. Spencer Simpson is joining us for this episode. Um, I, I found myself between a rock and a hard place because dear friend of the show, Armin from the comic book cast, is probably the biggest Captain America fan I know. Those of you who have heard the Winter Soldier or the first Avenger episode know that Armin, that like Captain America, experiencing Captain America, like the cartoon and the comics, was like a very like foundational thing for him when he and his family immigrated here from Bosnia back when he was a kid. So like I found myself between two people who love Captain America. One who has this very formative experience with this character, one who, as a history buff, has a deep affinity for this character, and their schedules are like water and oil. Armin is only good during the daytime, and Spencer's work schedule and just regiment has no cohesion with Armin at all. And I was like, I need to have Spencer on for at least one Captain America movie on the road to Doomsday. And I was like, I told Armin, and he was very gracious because I had told him he was going to be on for Winter Soldier. I was like, I need Spencer on for this one because I have to have Armin on for Civil War. Because I was watching comic book cast all the time in the lead up to Civil War, and I was like, that
Is
feels too
Armin
special.
Team Cap?
Armin is Team Cap. Uh,
Yes, thank you, Lord.
Oh, don't
Yes,
worry.
brother.
I am aware of the fact that I am in the minority and that I would have to cook the books for that episode to be in my favor.
I
Uh
honestly thought you already did.
no. No, Mitch and Travis are Team Iron Man. They're along with
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Um Again, if I wanted
Is
it
this a
like
straight litigation?
we'll see. We'll see. We got a couple movies before we're talking about Civil War. We got a couple movies before then. But as alluded to already, we are here. We are talking Captain America, the Winter Soldier. We are about halfway through phase two now, or I think
The
we're exactly
sexiest
halfway.
Captain America, if you will.
Yes, indeed. But before we jump into the meat and potatoes, as it were, a brief word from our sponsors over at Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill. Are you a
Thank God it's a
POW?
drink that goes great with meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Thank
Are you
God.
a World War II era POW who got kidnapped by a rogue Nazi scientific division and got turned into a Manchurian candidate style super assassin? Well, then wash away your sorrows with Sunday's Bloody Mary, the only Bloody Mary mix better than a from scratch Bloody. This former bartender trusts only one Bloody Mary mix, and that is Sunday's. So use the link in the description down below. And use code TNAP, TNAP, to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. Lady and gentlemen, are you ready for some trivia?
Hmm.
Oh, I've
Yeah, we're
been
not.
trying all day to think of what you could possibly ask,
Hopefully,
and
it's
I've
1970.
realized that no matter what it is, I'm probably not going to get it correct. But I love some good trivia. Let's do it.
It's
All
okay,
right.
Spencer. I'm famously, I get them wrong all the time. Every time.
Well,
In fact.
don't worry. I'm starting with a softball, at least for our guest on Road to Doomsday. What Bible verse is on Nick Fury's
Oh,
headstone? Bonus point if you are able to recite the entire verse.
okay.
It's all you,
I
brother.
know the answer. Um, the question is, are we going based on what the Bible actually says? Or are we going based on
No, we're going
what
based.
Jules says it
We're
says?
going off of the Jules Winfield
Okay.
version.
All right.
Is the
I
Jules
will.
version of
I
the
will
Bible.
come out swinging. It is, of course, Ezekiel 25:17, which says, we'll see how it goes. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquity of something and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who shepherds his brother through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And they will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon them.
There it is.
By the way, just as an avid Bible reader, I have to say that the only part of that is remotely biblical is like the last clause of it's just like, and I will strike them with great vengeance and furious anger, and they will know my name is the Lord when I lay my wrath upon them. That's like basically the only part of it that's actually biblical. But you gotta love a good movie monologue.
You gotta love a good movie.
You gotta love it. Okay. All right.
So not to derail too much, I need everybody at home to know this led to a formative memory I have with Spencer, because when this movie came out, I was the only person in our friend group who went, because I saw this movie like a couple weeks late for whatever reason, and I was the only person in our friend group who saw that headstone and went, "Oh, that's so cool!" And like after I was explained it to them, and then on our way to county choir the following year, I borrowed a friend's portable DVD player to show Spencer Pulp Fiction on the bus.
And I didn't enjoy it.
I bet you didn't.
On the first watch. It took me about 5 years later. About 5 years later, I rewatched it and was like, "This movie's awesome."
In the bus, it wasn't a formative experience for you.
The way Quentin Tarantino intended it to be viewed on a screen about yay big on a school bus while we're getting yelled at for eating what I love, the stinky chips. Yeah, that's the stinky chip story where we cracked open a bag of Doritos Jacked
chips
and gassed the bus with it.
I love that for you guys.
Thank you. This question, the answer, you can be a little loose with it. Who does co-director Joe Russo play in the film?
Alden Diaz.
He does look like an old Alden, which shocked us both in the audio commentary.
Didn't shock me. As soon as I saw him, I said, "That's Silver Fox Alden Diaz."
I know the answer. I don't know. Does Taylor know the answer?
Fuck no. My answer was
all right. He is one of the people that shares at the VA support group.
That is an end game. That is an end game where he's in Cap's support group.
But you fucking nailed that, dude. I'm saving that. Please remind me for later because I will need it.
I did not. Yeah, no, that doesn't count as nailing it. That counts as no cigar.
No, that was a great pull though. That's his other cameo. He plays the medic in Fury's safe house, who has compressing Natasha's wound.
I thought you wanted an answer, like a name.
No, I said I don't need the name, just what they're doing.
He said we'll be loose on this one. Yeah,
I knew who that was.
Next question. What Marvel hero later appearing in Phase 4 is alluded to by Jasper Sitwell while being interrogated?
Yes, Stephen Strange.
I'm gonna give you both a mulligan. Phase 4, not Phase.
Wait. He's not. It has to be the first one. It has to be the first person that he mentions because he says somebody Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange.
There was a high school student from Iowa, which unless you're talking about
it's one of the vague ones. It's one of the vague ones. It's not
the one before that. It has to be the one before that.
Yeah, it's not the student in Iowa, but it's like one of the random ones.
I called that one out because I was like, back in my day on the internet,
I knew about this one, and I thought it was interesting because you pulled the one I wasn't referring to.
Yeah, what was it?
Sitwell refers to a man in Cairo, which many people think is a reference to Moon Knight.
Okay, that works.
That it would have been Mark Spector.
Whatever, but the high school student in Iowa was a Tumblr suspected X-Men character that they were like, obviously they can't name them because they don't have the rights.
Our last trivia question. What comic writer has a brief cameo during Bucky's transformation into the Winter Soldier? Like during the flashback where we like see that glimpse into the Hydra laboratory.
No clue.
Nope.
Jack Kirby.
That I wish Kirby were around for that. That would be Ed Brubaker. Ed Brubaker.
Yeah, I knew that.
Writer of the Winter Soldier comic arc, who kind of introduced the idea of Bucky coming back. Because back in the day, there's
only two characters who ever stayed dead, and that's Uncle Ben and Bucky Barnes.
Well, the list has gotten so short because it used to be Batman's parents, Ben Parker, Gwen Stacy, Bucky Barnes, Jason Todd. Like that was like these guys are permanent.
Gwen and Jason were not on that list.
Permadead.
Well, that was the thing. They were like that was. Those are the only comic book characters who were permadead. And then we get Flashpoint, and then we have Thomas Wayne Batman and Martha Wayne Joker. And then eventually we get Spider-Gwen, and we get the Winter Soldier, and now we have Red Hood. So like all five of what was supposed to be the permadead characters have had some type of second life in some way, shape, or form. Except for Uncle Ben. Even then, he is in the Spider-Verse comic event as a Spider-Man himself, but I don't count that. Anyway, background real quick. Beginning production in 2012, Marvel nearly sat Gary Gray in the director's seat for The Winter Soldier, but Gray withdrew his name for the shortlist so that he could helm the NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton. Directorial duties fell to Community alums Joe and Anthony Russo, who would go on to become the MCU's most reliable and successful directors, later leading production of not just the next Captain America feature, but taking over for Joss Whedon after his departure from the MCU following frustrations filming Avengers Age of Ultron.
Frustrations felt by all.
Marcus and McFeely set out to juxtapose the idyllic black and white morality of First Avenger with the grounded, grim, post 9/11 surveillance state politics of today, forcing Cap to grapple with a world much more complicated than the one he left behind, with parallels to the comics with instances where Steve became a soldier without a nation. The Russos punched up on this vision by suggesting an emphasis on modern warfare technology, such as drones and the like, to marry with Marcus and McFeely's vision of setting this as almost a 70s-style post-Watergate political thriller. Captain America, The Winter Soldier, had a budget of $170 million and grossed nearly $455 million at the box office.
At least 50 of those dollars were mine.
But Spencer, as our guest, I will throw to you, what do you remember of this time? Now, it's funny to ask this. It's funny to ask this because when I did this with Travis on Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, that was in that like couple years where we weren't physically in the same building. That is not the case for us. So our stories will end up being rather similar. So I'm throwing to you first. What was going on?
Yeah.
What do you remember when this movie came out?
Yeah, so my version of this story is not going to be all that exciting because unlike some other movies like the first Avengers movie or Civil War or Iron Man 3, like where I specifically remember the circumstance in which I saw the film, I don't remember seeing Winter Soldier for the first time. It might have been in theaters. I honestly have no idea. What I do remember is watching Winter Soldier after it had come out on Blu-ray on like a 14-inch flat screen TV in one of our high school buddy Josh's house at a sleepover. And it was like something that we put on while we were just going off to bed. And I remember watching this and thinking like, man, this movie slaps. Like it's good. Like it's not just MCU good. It's like
good
really
as fuck.
good. Yeah. So that's all I gotta say.
Okay, Taylor, what was up with you?
Oh, it's 2014. I'm in my senior year of high school or the end of my junior year, depending on what month it was. And I am so in love with this film. Like I said, 50 of those dollars were mine because I saw it like
Mhm.
7 times. I was a repeat visitor to the theater for this film. And I was on Tumblr, so terrible for everybody there, but great for me at the time. This was and is such a great film. It is so well done. Like I think the storytelling is amazing. I think the dialogue is unmatched. I love this movie. I absolutely love this movie.
Oh yeah. Well, I know for me, like I said, I got to it a couple weeks late, and a core memory I have of the film was I was in my very first musical, Guys and Dolls. Is the first and last musical I ever did. Not that same production. It's just funny bookend. And I was a couple weeks late to it, and I was kind of like with Avengers, I was having all of my friends who were like who knew less about the comics asking me questions that like were framed in such a way that I was like, "What are you talking about?" Where it's like the movie sounded incoherent the way everybody was talking to me about it, but I was hearing incredible buzz, and I remember so vividly two things. The first one was before the movie came out. There was like everybody was like, "Oh, who's this Winter Soldier guy? Who's this Winter Soldier guy?" And I remember going, "Well, I can tell you who he is." And they're like, "Oh, you know?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "It's really cool, but I don't want to spoil it because it's probably going to be framed as a big reveal." And a number of our friends were like, "No, tell us." And I was like, "Oh, it's Bucky, his buddy from the first movie." And I had somebody look me in the eye and say, "Like, you're fucking stupid. How could it be Bucky? He fell off of a train
He's
and died."
dead.
And I just kind of went, "Okay." You know, kind of passive aggressive bitchy. I was like, "Okay, sure." But the other one was a friend of ours who was in that musical with us, a gentleman named Tommy. He told me that one of the last shots of the movie was Nick Fury's eye patch engulfed in flames. And I became incensed because Nick Fury is one of my favorite Marvel characters. I love the Shield stuff in general, and again, when I see the movie and I see Fury get double tapped through the window, I was fully convinced Fury was dead, and spent most of the movie, my first viewing, kind of grumpy. Um, that it felt like this would be the last time we'd see Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. But no, I remember coming out of it absolutely loving it. I went to see it with my uncle Brent. I can tell you exactly what I was wearing as well, which I like, normally that's not a thing I can recall that quickly, but I remember I was avidly shopping on this website called superherostuff.com,
Oh
and it
no.
was one of the only places I could get like it was the only place I could get like t-shirts and stuff that like had like the comic book versions of stuff on them.
Yeah.
And I had this t-shirt that was the cover art for issue 1 of Superior Spider-Man. And I like vividly remember like that was the first time I was like really reading comics. I was like reading month to month Superior Spider-Man, and a little bit of Avengers and Avengers versus X-Men. And I vividly remember like I had these like really dark wash gray jeans, my Superior Spider-Man shirt, and I was just pleased as a peach that I'm like I'm seeing one of these movies and I'm reading comics for the first time, and this movie fucking rules.
It does, yeah.
Um, but yeah, if we could start off like in the actual discussion thing, I say in the audio commentary, I've said publicly, I'm on the record as saying I think Captain America: The Winter Soldier is a movie that is a little overrated, and that's when the torches and pitchforks come out.
Yeah, I would have torches and pitchforks. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's overrated in the same way that I think The Dark Knight is overrated. And I would honestly say another modern example would be in the same way I think Andor is overrated. I think all three of those projects are like generationally incredible, and I love them dearly. I think I find myself frustrated by the fact that by this idea that grounded and realistic equals good, and fantastical and fanciful equals lesser than. And I think at the time when like other MCU projects were coming out, like we have, like especially early Phase 3, where like we're getting, Doctor Strange and stuff like that. I think there was a lot of conversations about like, oh, this is cool and this is trippy, this is whatever, comic booky superhero action. I wish it was as grounded and realistic as Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And that started to frustrate me in the same way that people wanting everything to be the Dark Knight frustrated me. It frustrates me now in the same way everybody wants every Star Wars project to be Andor frustrates me. Where like I think I just get agitated by grounded equals good. And that removing the fantastical element is a direct like qualifier to the quality of the project. And I want to say now, like that is where this movie is overrated comes from for me, because it's really good. Like I so many times throughout the audio commentary had nothing to say but damn,
I think
periodically.
I think it being grounded only comes from a place of that there is not the fantastical element. I think for this movie, like this is where we start to like really get a lot of the comic book elements of the villains coming through too.
Yeah,
Batroc is in purple and yellow for some reason.
he
Uh,
looks great.
Zola is a computer man, and they're like, yeah, no, we're gonna double down on this. We're gonna triple down on this. His whole brain is here. Like,
We
oh,
get a brief introduction to Baron von Strucker. Yeah,
we get the taste of that, but I think because the purpose of this movie is not the fantastical element, it is
sure.
the who can you trust at the end of all things. Um, and I think that when we get the fantastical elements, because we do get, yeah, Bucky survived, sure, sure. Like, there's not,
Yeah,
Steve is literally like, "Oh, well, whatever Zola did must have let him survive the fall, probably.
yeah,
Um, we do get a little hand wavy, but I think this sets the groundwork for, hey, people will just accept if people are in kind of silly costumes or colors, or, if we want to kind of just do a thing, you kind of have to take that leap.
right. No, I don't think you're wrong. I think there is something to be said for the fact that this is like not necessarily the beginning, but this is one of those moments of like the envelope is getting pushed, where like we all like there like you're right, like there are like some of those like fantastical elements. Granted, I do think because they're on the more sci-fi side of things, they're easier to accept.
Of course,
Um, but like, but you're not wrong that like this is like, oh,
this is
you'll
Thor.
buy
Like,
Arnim Zola,
yeah,
like
this
as
isn't
he is in the
Thor. Like,
comics.
we
You will
can't.
buy Arnim Zola. You will buy. There's a French mercenary whose superpower is
Is
backflips.
kicking. Yeah.
Is kicking in backflips. you
And
know.
the thing is that like we with Captain America, we are not expected to just accept the fact that like God's monsters and all of those things are in his realm of like, yeah, I can do that. We should gradually get up there. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thor, we can understand being like, yeah, he has to fight interplanetary threats. He's a Norse god who can fly with a magic hammer. Yeah, of course we can take that. But like you have a guy from Brooklyn who's like his superpower is being Dorito shaped and great at everything.
Right.
Um, you know, yeah, I can take the guy whose superpower is kicking. And I can take the guy who's a computer, I guess, because I do remember him from the last movie. Um, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we can push the envelope, but like how far can you push it before it's like, all right, let's be so serious. Captain America can't can't do this any like this is
Hmm.
unrealistic for him to be fighting. Like that's where you kind of have to toe the line. But I think this movie does a great job of towing the line, um, and giving us perhaps the greatest character, uh, Bucky Barnes back.
Yeah. And I will say that there's something to be said for the fact that, like, in terms of like what will the audience accept, like if this is the grounded shot, the next movie is the like buck wild chaser that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Spencer, do you have any thoughts on like the tonal element here? I know you like Taylor been subjected to me bitching about the Dark Knightification of like genre media and how like that is a sticking point for me. So I don't want to beat that horse too much more, but I'm curious on your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think I can answer the question tying it in, but not dwelling on the Dark Knightification side of things. I think, um, it's been famously said, art imitates life, and I think the inverse can also be true, where life imitates art a little bit. Like we get a fanciful kind of story, like a Captain America 1 that is all idealistic. It's it's patriotism, it's red, white, and blue. It's doing the right thing just because it's the right thing. But I think something that the MCU has done well, and that all franchises, including Star Wars, have to come to grips with at some point or other, is people get tired of fanciful stories when they're in the freaking trenches. Like people like, if art imitates life, then people
kind of
desire art sometimes to distract them from real life, but they also desire sometimes for art to reflect their lived experience. And I think that Winter Soldier was, because it was kind of the first of its kind in the MCU, to have this really visceral story that basically amounts to an action thriller based in a comic book world. Like the tension, the self-discovery, the self-rediscovery whenever you realize that what you thought has been true has been not true. We still have these fundamental themes for the human experience, like friendship, and when friendship becomes family, and loyalty to your people, even if it seems like they've gone off the deep end, but especially if it seems like they've gone off the deep end because somebody pushed them there. Those are real human experiences that are really hard to tell in a narrative format with a fanciful, kind of whimsical tone to them, like the earlier MCU movies, like a Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think you're right. Like, to assume that in order for any show or any movie to be good, it has to be of a darker, more grounded tone is false, because you can still tell great stories. Like, I walk out of the theater watching First Avenger with my chest puffed out and feeling great about life. And well, we should, as as patriotic American people who love a good story of underdog redemption. But I also walk out of a movie like Winter Soldier thinking, man, it's great to know that the people behind, like, I know this, Jarod, because I read the MCU book that you recommended to me. But like, at some point in the early stages of the MCU coming together, they had written on a whiteboard verisimilitude, which, for those of you who have not taken the SATs seriously,
or those of you who are self-admittedly Kevin Feige, who still cannot pronounce that word.
Right. But verisimilitude is basically the principle of realism, believability. Like, it has to be real enough that people are going to buy it. And you can throw in the whimsical with the believable elements of, like, family, like you get in Guardians of the Galaxy. But
connection, building.
But people who don't live in a fanciful world also want to see stories that reflect their unfanciful world, where, like, their world is literally unraveling around them. Like, their friends are getting assassinated, their old friends are now their enemies. Like, and by the way,
can you trust your neighbor?
Can you trust your neighbor? And also, I think there are a lot of stories that could be told either way. A story like this one could not have been told in a fanciful kind of way, and it was
No.
the right tone for that. Like
Yeah.
this is like a 1984 kind of a situation. You can't tell 1984 with a Teletubby puppet show and
No.
have it be effective. Insert, like I said, some you could do both, but like this whole idea of the traditionalist, like old school soldier being faced with a world of constant surveillance, that's not a kid's story. And yeah, you can tell kids stories in a grown-up way, but some grown-up stories can only be told in a grown-up way. And that's why I think the tone of this movie struck really well, is because it was kind of the first of its kind in the MCU to go,
Right.
yeah, we like to have fun around here, but we're also interested in telling believable stories that are
Yeah.
relatable to real people. And life is ugly. Like, it's really ugly. And sometimes life being ugly is resolved in Peter, take my hand, we're the guardians of the galaxy, you know. And sometimes it is told with, I don't care if you kill me right now, you're still my best friend and I can't kill you. And you can't tell that
Yeah.
with a Guardians of the Galaxy
Or
tone.
even,
So
are you ready for the world to see you as you really are?
yeah,
Are you?
yes,
It's the
yes,
same.
exactly.
It's the exact same where you get that reality is tough and weird, and there's full like everything is black. Like there's no black and white. Everything is shades of gray. Are you ready for the world to see you acting in shades of black to better their vision of gray? Are you
Yeah,
ready for are you ready for the world to see you as you truly are, being such a pivotal moment for Natasha's character, but also for the tone of the film, being like, hey, you know, throughout this movie we get consistency in Nick's not telling Steve everything, and Natasha's not telling Steve everything, and nobody is telling anybody everything.
everything. Yeah.
Um,
Even Sam is a little, you know,
Sam didn't tell Steve everything.
yeah,
I
Hmm.
never
you
said
know,
I was a pilot. There is a consistency across that, because when you're looking at military government, when you're looking at like high level subjects like this, the greatest security in that is don't ask, don't tell. And not like the gay way, but like
yeah.
in the
Don't ask
genuine,
questions you don't
like,
want to know the answer to, kind of
if
Yeah.
you're
way.
gonna
Yeah,
ask me a question and I have to give you an honest answer, either you're gonna rock with it or you're not. And if
Yeah.
you don't, you're like, I can't let you keep going.
Yeah.
and I
And
And you
I'm sorry.
also can't unlearn the thing that you've learned. Yeah.
so for Sam being like, I never said I was a pilot. Like, Steve, I didn't know if you would be cool with me flying missions to more than likely grab secretive documents, grab, secret weapons, like stealing shit, genuinely. Like, what else is that suit designed for but get in, get out, grab that shit and run?
Yeah.
It's not built for fighting. We see that. We see that in this film.
He has to get a series of upgrades to be able to be like an actual combatant.
Bucky rips his wings off and throws him in the trash. Okay.
Well,
There
I
is no like, that's the thing is, and we see the value of that personhood in Natasha in this. We see the value of spy, not a soldier, in her specifically every time she is on screen. And she is kind of that lesson that, like, yeah, we may not be good people, but we're not bad. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that we are bad either.
yeah.
Give us a cause that we agree with, give us a cause that we are willing to die for. We're going to die for it. But and again, for her, for the whole movie, you know, I thought I joined Shield because I wanted to go straight. Turns out that was never the case.
Yeah, that line of "I traded the KGB for Hydra" is, you know, it's really affecting. And I will say, like, you know, I think that I don't know if we've necessarily critiqued it. You know, we've talked about it in a critical way, but I don't think we've gotten in the weeds with it. We won't necessarily hear, just because there's a lot to talk about already. But like, the first Iron Man movie, especially because the stakes were so high for that movie to be successful. You know, they wanted to have a much more biting conversation about the war on terror than they were able to. That there was stuff that got cut, there was stuff that got kind of sanitized and watered down. And I think that this movie, I think it also exists as kind of again a moment where Marvel is like, "Ooh, we can get away with this. Like we can have a movie that is about the Patriot Act. We can have a movie that is about the surveillance state and talk about it in a very blown up, larger than life way, and grapple with these ideas of the history we're taught versus the world we live in currently, and how it's really hard to square the noble hero in the trenches in France with you know we're just spying on people, like
Yeah.
we're just straight spying on everybody. um and the ways that like the people we look to being inherently compromised by the system. Like Nick Fury says that like he did see Hydra growing, but he's also still telling Steve that Project Insight is going to be like an unmitigated good. Like he's still defending Project Insight, even if he has an inkling that the bottom is about to fall out from Shield.
I don't think he's defending it so much. Like in that scene where he was shot, it's more so I want to scavenge the tech so that way like I can rebuild some of
No,
it.
I mean at the beginning. Where
I
like
know
when
I don't
Steve
think
is like,
he
so with the whole like, oh, I thought the punishment came after the crime, and Nick is like, yeah, well,
but
we don't
doesn't
have that liberty anymore, and New
but
York broke our brains.
he didn't know that Shield was compromised until after that, until he went into the district, like until he went into the USB and got that confirmation.
That's fair. I've always
Like
gone back and forth
he
on the interpretation though, because like the way he's like, oh, I knew, that's why I have this whole bunker. Well, you didn't have this safe house in a week, Nick.
well,
Like,
that's no, but that's the thing is that he did always know that there was something afoot, but I don't think he knew how far along it was
sure,
until he was like, "Oh, I can't get into my own shit because I locked myself out."
I've been marked for death.
Yeah.
Like clearly someone's gunning for me now. Um, but yeah, and I agree. I do think the tone is great. And again, it's not that I don't like these stories that have this more grounded tone. I think a
Yeah.
lot of it
We
is
need
just like
both.
we
Yeah.
need
We
both.
need a
And
healthy amount of both.
I would go so far as to say that and it's telling when you look at like again these big stories, your Andors, your Dark Knights, your Captain America trilogies, like the Steve Rogers trilogy. Like my favorite entry in all of these is where they go, "Fuck it, let's get silly." We're like let's just like let's take like a little eyedropper and put some fantasy in here. And like that is why I am one of the rare defenders of The Dark Knight Rises, because that movie's insane. It reads like one of the most insane Batman comics you could possibly pick up, because that movie is Bruce doing shit because he's Batman. And Civil War, where it's like, okay, and we're gonna just bring all the power, like the powered people in here, not just Steve, who is basically you can tone Steve down to the point where he just feels like Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible. Like he's doing things that are larger than that, but like you can basically fit him in there. And then stuff like I really like a lot of Andor season 2 more than season 1 because it feels a lot more pulpy in a lot of places. And I think I like when it's this tone and you just put in like a teaspoon of the silly bullshit. Like that teaspoon of the silly bullshit, it's like a strong seasoning for me, where it's like this is just enough of what I need for this to have that big, larger than life feeling that like lands with me so much personally. And again, it's not a value judgment. It's a taste thing, and it's a frustration with a conversation thing. Um,
I feel like Captain America Winter Soldier has enough of that spice. Again, I think that not every story can just, jump the shark.
yeah,
It
for
just
sure.
doesn't fit.
You're not wrong on that either. Kind of moving in here. I really do love Steve's arc in this movie because in a similar way, to make another Star Wars comparison, um, and to steal the way that Alden Diaz talks about it, because I can't explain it without going on for an hour. But in a similar way that like Alden describes The Last Jedi as being a movie that goes Star Wars question mark for like the first 70% of it, and that back 25% being all caps, bolded, underlined Star Wars. And like it kind of questions those big ideas and then it affirms every single one of them in the back chunk of the movie. I think something similar happens with Steve's arc in particular, especially with the tone and these themes about, again, surveillance and being able to, trust not only in systems, but your, fellow person. That like Steve's Pollyanna-ness is kind of a driving force that lets even the most cynical of people involved here with Nick Fury and Black Widow to be able to just do hero shit. Like even in Avengers, like Natasha is like, "Oh, there's a threat, I got to help handle it." And like we got to get boots on the ground right now. This is the smart thing to do. Like it's an insane plan, but like it's our only option is to take the fight to Loki. Here, Natasha, like you alluded to earlier, Taylor, like she's a spy, not a soldier. And she takes the fight to Hydra when she could have cut and run. The smart spy thing here was to, like she said, I blew every single cover I have. Whatever covers she still had, by the time that we're talking about trying to storm the Triskelion, we can, like, you can bounce, Nat. Like that could have been an option for her. It would have come with shame from Steve and Sam,
No,
you
I
know.
think that I
But
don't think it was possible for her based on her reaction to Nick Fury's death, to her death. Um, when he was killed, quote unquote, by the Winter Soldier, um, out on the street, she mourned his death. Um, I think that in that moment, she doubled down on everything.
no, I agree. But that's what I'm saying is that
But
like
that's well, that
with Steve's leadership and Steve's example, I think it inspires so much out of people. And that's what I'm kind of getting at is that like because Steve is the type of person in a room full of people who go the odds are impossible. Steve Rogers says I can do this all day. Fuck you, fuck your odds. This is the same man who will use his shield as a tourniquet and stare down Thanos' entire army, in like about 7 years in the MCU timeline. In about 7 years, he is going to. I don't care. I do not care if the odds are impossible, and I think that
Yeah.
he inspires people to like even somebody like Natasha to be like, yeah, we're taking this fight head on. In the same way that even Nick Fury's like, you know what, you're up. And I really like tonally there being a rejection of the cynicism that like the answer to this kind of cynicism, the answer to being kind of broken by systems falling apart and things that you invested your trust into being not only fallible but potentially fully fundamentally in the wrong. The answer to that is a a belief the in the people to be able to handle this shit. And I agree with you that like Nat, she never would have let Fury's assassination go unanswered. But it's Steve going like, tell me about who did it. We're gonna go handle this. We're going right now. And like, God damn it, we're gonna take the fight to Hydra. Like that kind of like that is a very Captain America thing. And I think Steve brings a lot of people in Fury, in Natasha, and to a lesser extent Maria Hill, into a fight that is not on the terms they typically would have decided on the fight happening. And he's even able to bark down Nick Fury, who, again, being a decent man who is very Luthen Rail, a decent man who's forced to do indecent things in the name of a security he fundamentally believes in. Like, he's even able to bark Fury down and be like, no, like Insight and Shield and Hydra, it dies today. All of it dies today. And even Fury's able to be brought to heel in a certain way. And I just really appreciate Cap's characterization being what it is. And I think there's a version of this that could have leaned into the more cynical versions of Cap we've seen in the comics, where he relinquishes the name and he becomes Nomad, and he's wearing, like I think there's a version of this where the movie ends and Steve doesn't believe the things he believes at the beginning.
Robin at the end of Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. Where like there's the mysticism is broken, and Steve, a version of this movie could be this dark world changed this bright spot of a human being, and like he's willing to use lethal force while fighting the Winter Soldier. But
I don't think there's a world where that happens.
No, but that's what I'm saying, is because he is characterized the way he is and the way he's presented in the movie.
That goes against literally everything that he stands for with his bow specifically.
Sure, but I'm just saying, if you crank that cynicism up to 100, if you take it in that direction, again, very similar to The Dark Knight. This movie got compared to The Dark Knight all the fucking time. Like that movie ends with, moments before Batman kills Harvey Dent, he cuts a promo on the Joker saying, "I'm not going to kill you, and the people of Gotham aren't going to kill each other because we're not like you, you bastard." And moments later, Bruce is forced to do it. Bruce murders Harvey Dent, and it's justifiable and it's understandable and it's tragic that Bruce had to do that. But like, I think there's a version of this story that is Steve having to compromise those uncompromisable values. And I think that what makes this story so strong is watching somebody go, I understand that this world is shades of gray, but there are lighter and darker shades, and there are still things that are right and wrong. And even if it's mired and it's complicated, we can still go, Project Insight, regardless of if Hydra has its hands on it, is fundamentally wrong. And Steve takes that conviction all the way to the end and, gets his shit rocked for it by Bucky. Again, the special effects makeup with his, like, that first hit and his whole face is swollen. It looks like that scene in Hitch where Will Smith eats a shrimp. I just really appreciate that characterization. I've been yapping. Spencer, thoughts on Steve in this movie and his arc?
I think you said it best, or at least alluded to it best. Steve's superpower is not the fact that he's big and strong. His superpower is that it's his leadership, it's his example. And that comes through really clearly here, where you can take somebody who, like Taylor was saying, you can take somebody whose instinct, whose training, whose whole modus operandi is whenever the whole place explodes, you disappear and you regroup and you infiltrate and take them down that way. Cap, it's not the first time that he's inspired somebody in that capacity to go, no, if all of this stuff is being done in the shadows, then the fight needs to happen in broad daylight. And she's like, nope, yep, you're right. I like Cap. I like that you see a little bit of both. You see him both adjusting to and kind of jarring against the new world that he's in
Mhm.
now. He is kind of moving on a little bit, but in the same way that Tony used work and
Yeah. Yeah.
invention as a
I-
crutch in Iron Man 3, I think
Yes.
that Steve kind of let himself dissolve into the uh
Shield of it all.
right, he let the institution, like there's work to be done. It's what I'm good at. It's all I have left.
Yep.
So that's what I'm gonna do. And I think that he gets pulled out of that in a really powerful way and is reminded very subtly. Like, I doubt that anybody came out of the movie thinking, wow, Steve was really, using his military his expertise as a kind of therapeutic numbing, so like to like his eyes are opened, and in a really subtle way he's kind of brought back to the core of who he was all along, just comes to realize what that looks like in a world that's very different than the one he left. So I like it.
Oh yeah, I love the way you put that, because that is a theme we've touched on with a number of these projects so far. Is like, I think one of the big themes of the multi or the Infinity Saga is this grappling with the cost of heroics.
Hmm.
That like this is a burden. And that it fundamentally changes people. We've talked about how Tony is given this really ugly cosmic punishment by the universe that his entire life will be an arms race. From the moment his caravan gets bombed by the Ten Rings in Afghanistan, to the moment he says,
Some
"I am
version of
Iron
the Ten
Man,"
Rings.
it's a version of the Ten Rings.
Some version.
Uh, to the moment he gives his life to defeat Thanos. Um, that Thor, for him, it's so much of it is that, like, this weird, like, being a statesman and being part of a community, and like what's more important, like the
The will of the
pride of the
one, or
community.
yeah, the will of the many versus the will of the few.
Yeah, and like with Steve, I think a lot of it comes, like, we talk about the man out of time. We talk about this idea of, you have this Pollyanna, basically propaganda hero, who like
Who exists?
yeah,
Who
it's
is a
like Tony
real
says.
person?
It's like Tony says in Avengers. He's like, we have a living legend who lives up to the legend.
Yeah.
And now he's like basically in the fucking NSA, and he has to deal with the Patriot Act. Like that's
I
that's
think for
heavy and
Steve,
that's
it's
hard.
more, he is a man out of time, but it's more the different relationship I think that the people have with not only their government, but with those who they choose to lead, and his grappling with the fact that like leaders are not infallible.
Mhm.
Those who we choose to lead us are very capable of failing, are very capable of fucking up, and very capable of being human. And I think that like that is kind of the issue with him and Nick's relationship in the beginning. Is that Nick is inherently not somebody who is an oversharer or is open, for various reasons. And I think that Steve is kind of grappling with the fact that not only is leadership not infallible, but like the systems that we have depended on also then reflect that.
Yeah.
Um, and for him to like come to terms with all of that is tough. And then for him to come to terms with the fact that like the enemy has brainwashed and controlled the person who he is most devoted to throughout his entire life.
Right.
Um, because there's a lot of grappling that he has to do with not only fact A, but fact B too, that he is like not only, okay, are they ruining the country, they kidnapped my best friend, okay? They kidnapped the person who meant the most to him throughout his entire life. Like that is, I so many times made the comparison between Steve and Bucky to Achilles and Patroclus. Um, because to
I'm
me,
glad you're going this direction now because I was the next thing I was gonna just throw to you to do your Winter Soldier analysis. So
to
I'm
me,
glad this is naturally segueing in.
those relationships are so parallel to each other. Like the care for, the love of, the brotherhood, the relationship, the dependence on, um, and the death of are all things that they share with the myth. In the first Avenger, once Bucky is killed in action, there is nothing more for Steve to hold back against. It's game on, bitch. It's
Yeah,
full game on. And it's nonstop until the end.
yeah. He's hitting harder, and there's a lot less.
Which is
Not to say that he goes like John Wick serial killer
no,
mode or
but
anything,
like that is
but
the
like
direct parallel between the Achilles and Patroclus legend
yeah,
is that Patroclus goes into battle for Achilles and is killed in battle when he directly disobeys Achilles because he's like, "Nah, I got this." And Achilles in turn um destroys the Trojan army. Like there is a, for me, direct one-to-one comparison here where we are looking at these relationships so similarly and we are writing them, we are developing them. And again, Sebastian Stan does such an amazing job um of expressing himself through his eyes, through his face, through every non-verbal like means throughout this entire film to
Mhm.
display the anguish, the pain, the trauma, the never-ending suffering that he has to go through because no matter what, the Winter Soldier is always awake for these things. Bucky is awake. He sees it, he experiences it, he remembers it. And then they put him out until they need him again. And then he wakes up and he remembers it and he experiences it and he sees it and he feels it. And then he goes back to sleep. And it's this never ending circle of wake up, kill, go back. Wake up, kill, go back. Wake up, kill, go back.
and if we wipe your
Until
memory, you're haunted by these like ghosts of
I
memories.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I still know. Like there is no there is no permanent deletion of memory. That's just not possible. Like it's just not. And that man on the bridge, I know him, is proof of the fact that
yeah.
that memory is not, you can't delete that.
If I can interject for a moment, I talk about this all the time. It comes up more often than not when we're doing like Star Wars conversations. But like I really do like love talking about characterization through fight choreography and how I think it's something that a lot of audiences miss and that we get caught up in like how thrilling a fight scene is, that there are just little beats that are so illustrative. And what you're talking about with that pain and that anguish, like when we have Bucky or we have the Winter Soldier, um while he doesn't like, nothing has jogged his memory, he's just in assassin mode. And
And that
it's
bitch shoots him in the face. How dare she try to hurt him? Like,
and we have him in like cold-blooded killer mode. you know he is like he moves very efficiently.
yes,
It's brutal, but it's dispassionate.
it's
you
like a
know
tiger stalking its
Decisive.
prey. It
yeah, it's
is.
very decisive,
It
to
is
make it.
a tiger stalking its prey. It is a man on a mission. It is somebody who is hunting.
Yeah, I don't care about you, I don't dislike you, I just gotta kill
There
you.
is nothing.
And, like, I would almost compare it to, like, to make another Star Wars comparison, like it's very similar to like seeing it's very similar to like the Rogue One Vader hallway scene. right? Like if you go to YouTube, that the first video that comes up is titled Vader's Rage. And I hate that because I don't think I've ever seen Vader in a more dispassionate position. He's horrifying.
Yeah,
It
he's
is
just like there though.
garbage.
No dead ass though. That is so correct. That is
But like,
very parallel to the Winter Soldier in the fact that this is just an normal Tuesday for him, and this is the scariest thing you've ever seen in your life.
yeah. And again, to continue the Star Wars comparison, Taylor, you made the compare you like the final fight scene in like the chip chamber thing of like you compared it to the finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Where we're like, you know, Rogue One is Vader. This is Tuesday. I am at work. I just happen to be one of the most powerful,
literally
devastating
killing
force
Nick Fury
users.
is this is another Tuesday for me. Him in the Black Widow on the bridge, that's another Tuesday for him.
Obi-Wan and Vader on the unnamed moon. That is Vader angry, sad. There's a
Conflicted.
reflectiveness to it where that is somebody who's hurt.
Heart, yeah.
And wants to get their lick back. And he's sloppy and he gets his ass whooped for it.
And he also hits 100 times harder because he is mad.
And I think that's similar with the Winter Soldier during that final fight, where when again like we lose the like again like this efficient movement, this economy of motion, you know, and this precision, it kind of goes out the window. And the Winter Soldier gets a little messy when he's fighting Steve during this scene. You know, we're like he's throwing these big haymakers. Look at the earlier fights.
You're
like,
my best friend. You're my mission.
You're my mission, Spencer. You, me, and you know Sean, who we did a number of shows with. Like you know, like how many times did Sean tell us he tried to work that like the knife fight on the freeway choreography into something, right? We're like, that's so good, and it's such a visually appealing scene.
So good.
Like that specific passage in the fight when they're on the freeway, it's so cool to look at because every movement is so minimalistic. And then we get into the final fight, and it's a slugfest. It's ugly. It's messy. It lacks technique. Even Steve is messy. We look at how efficient he is fighting Badrock the Leaper, and then you watch him fight Bucky. Not only is he pulling his punches, he's not as efficient as he typically is, you know. And like it's Bucky's characterization of like, I know there's something going on here, but like my brain literally won't let me have a full picture.
Yeah.
And I'm angry about that, and I feel off kilter
so much.
And again, like it's those little things that I think go so far, and I don't think it gets discussed enough that like there's so much characterization in the fight choreography, and beyond just again Sebastian Stan's just stellar performance here. You know, doing so much with so little in terms of like he does not get to
it.
You know, like it's
there is no monologue. There is
No.
no extensive dialogue. There is a man and a chair and an electrocution table.
All of this man's like great quotables from this movie are like
4 words long.
Are like at most 4 monosyllabic words long.
Who the hell? Bucky, 5.
You're my mission. Like it's all just this like, you know, these like little brief
the man on the bridge. The man on the bridge. Oh, that's 5.
Yeah.
I knew him. Oh, we're doing it under 5.
Yeah, it's all of these like little lines. Spencer, Winter Soldier thoughts. We're getting worked up into a frenzy, and we will end up driving this train off the rails. So I throw to you, sir.
Because he's too hot to handle.
Yeah, I have to give all the credit to. Well, not all. Okay. I'd like to thank the Academy for Sebastian Stan.
The Nerd Academy, that is.
Nope, the Oscar Academy, because I'm with you there, brother.
Is Sebastian Stan the only one out there who could have made this part work? Of course not. But in the same way that, like, maybe to a lesser extent, but in the same way that once you get a taste of RDJ, you have a really hard time picturing anybody else doing it.
It's
I feel
why
like
everybody's afraid to
Winter
recast
Soldier,
Wolverine.
right? If
Yeah.
here's
Loki.
maybe here's how I would say it. If Sebastian Stan didn't come back for Winter Soldier, as long as they found somebody to play that role well, we keep rolling. We saw this with Don Cheadle. He did a great job. He filled the role well, and because of that, when people think of Colonel James Rhodes, by and large, they think of Cheadle, and they don't think of Terrence Howard.
R.I.P.
If
Terrence Howard.
Sebastian didn't
dead,
come back for Winter Soldier, then it wouldn't have been the end of the world. Post Winter Soldier, nobody else can do it.
Amen.
Like he made me believe that he, being Sebastian, was the right person for the job, not just because he looked like the same guy from the first movie, but because I believed his performance, and he acted the crap out of that role.
He acted
like you were saying. Like we've been saying, how if you put it into like a pie chart, 95% of the acting he did had nothing to do with dialogue.
Yes.
And yet he sold it. It was good. It was body language. It was the economy of motion, like Jarod is saying. It's the facial expression. He nailed it. You have to give credit to the choreographers, like Jarod was saying. You have to give credit to the script writers who were wise enough to realize to sell this character, he needs to barely speak at all. And so like there's for all of the things to come together to make the character that became the Winter Soldier in this movie, there are a lot of people that deserve credit. What they created was a compelling character that I care about. How many villains? Because let's be honest. For most of this movie, Winter Soldier is a one-dimensional villain. It isn't until like
three-dimensional, at least in my mind.
I think you're wrong. Like in the like it is.
Removing
it isn't
that we know it's
until,
Bucky, he's just a killing machine. Yeah.
Exactly. He is, and
But
yet
he's fine.
And yet, well, okay.
Listen,
let's leave physique out of the dimensional conversation here for a second.
No,
let him cook, Taylor. Let him cook. Let him cook. Let him cook.
Point. Haley Atwell, even in this movie, still fine.
There is obviously something to be said for dynamic character telling. That's a staple in good storytelling, but to take a character that is as flatline static as you can get, and doesn't really move the needle a whole lot by the end of the film, the combination of efforts to make the Winter Soldier a reality on screen made me care more about the primary antagonist of the film for, like, I don't want to say for no good reason.
You mean Robert Redford?
But measuring, no, I'm talking, no.
Oh, okay.
Measuring by the typical metrics.
Antagonist.
I mean, being Bucky, the guy who's like throwing hands with everybody, but also R.I.P. Robert Redford. But sorry,
but no, I lost my train of thought.
The Winter Soldier being the main vehicle, is the villain.
I've never cared or empathized or felt so much toward a villain as static as this one. We can argue the point. Is he static? Is he dynamic? In this film, plucked out of context, but Winter Soldier is a static character.
Yeah.
He does not
is vaguely remembering something from some time.
Right. So why do I care so much about a character that doesn't really change throughout the course of the movie? Is because Sebastian Stan, the writers, the directors of photography, the director, the choreographers, like, they made me believe in this character, and what more can be said?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like, to go back to an earlier point, like what I was saying with like Steve's effect on people, like it is only the Pollyanna nonsense from Steve that is able to begin to break the spell of the Hydra brainwashing. that like we go
Oh,
in
that man on
inside
the
of
bridge, I knew him.
inside of a few minutes, we go from "you're my best friend, you're my mission" to Bucky dives into the Potomac to drag Steve's
Hell yeah,
body
he
out of
does.
it. like
That's
and
exactly
that's kind of what I was getting
man.
at earlier. Like from everybody from Natasha Romanoff to the Winter Soldier, Steve affects them. Like you were saying, Spencer,
Absolutely.
it is the ideal. It's the example he leads by that
It's
affects
the heart.
everybody. Yeah,
It's it's exactly what makes him Captain America. It's exactly what in the first Avenger was continuously discussed by every single character, regardless of whether or not they thought it was genuinely a bad idea to give him the serum.
yeah,
It is
yeah.
the fact
Like
that he is a good fucking man,
Abraham
and no
Erskine
matter
is
what,
smiling down on Steve right now.
no
Abraham
matter what,
Erskine,
he is a good fucking man. And no matter when you have a good man, there is genuinely nothing that can turn the tide. And I think
absolutely.
that that is such honestly, let me get a you know what, Spencer, you're making me feel really patriotic right now. You know. I think that like but no, that's genuinely like the greatest ideal is that when you have a good man, there is genuinely nothing that is going to drive them off the path of goodness.
Right.
You have somebody who is so genuinely thoughtful, so genuinely passionate, and somebody who genuinely believes in the goodness of all people, not just some people, but all people. And when that goodness fails, there is there's no other option because even a bad person is capable of good things. Hence the reason why you're my best friend, you're my mission. There is something that Steve possesses that no matter what, until he is proven wrong, he is not fucking wrong. And
Mhm.
he proves that again and again with Bucky, with his faith in Bucky through this, through Civil War, through Infinity, like through the coming and going of time. There is one person who will always bring him back to center, and that is Bucky. Um, again,
And there's only
I
one person who can save Bucky from the Winter Soldier, and it's
is
Steve.
Steve because again, they are like this is one of the very few books I got to debate with like genuine Greek scholars was the Iliad. And was the fact that I was the only person who was like, no, I think Achilles and Patroclus are kind of homos for each other. I think they're kind of in love. And like to each their own. Like I love that everybody in the class was like, no, they're just like
Best buds.
bros. And I was like, and
Taylor said, I don't know about that. Her voice got so high pitched, StreamYard forgot to put it in.
and I was like, I every time I read this text and every time I look at their relationship and every time they interact, every time, even when Achilles is given a wife, given a bride, given this, given that, it's Patroclus who takes priority. And I know that the homoeroticism is not explicitly stated in the Homer text. That's fine. I don't need me and Plato don't need it to be. Okay. We see it. And I think that in this tale specifically, this is a huge, like, to me, a what could have, what would have thing for an Achilles character, somebody who is the hero, the best of the best, the top of the top, the cream of the creme, everything that everybody could ever want to be in a soldier and a man and a leader and as a statesman who loves this man through friends, through brothers, through eternity, through anything. loves this man. And no matter what, Steve will always go back for Bucky.
Right.
There is never a universe where Steve would not have stopped that train for Bucky. And there is not a universe where Achilles would have changed the fate of Patroclus to have saved him. And I think those themes connect so well with me because, again, I love Greek history and I love Greek legends and yada yada. But like these two guys have that love for each other that transcends the nature of genuine, like, of friendship, of love, of romanticism, of sexualization. There is none of that. It is the truest, most genuine form of love for another person. And I there is nobody who embodies it better in modern day film, television, script, anything than Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes.
I agree with you on so much of that. I think like for me, on a certain level, because like I've never been super into like the Stucky stuff, and I think a lot of that is because like
Well, you don't have to be like, that's what I
no,
mean. It's that
no,
like
no,
it's not
that's
necessarily romantic, it's not necessarily sexual. It is
no,
the genuine bond of two individuals who are so so
no,
beyond connected.
no, I agree, and I understand that. I'm just saying, like, because I know everything you're saying sometimes gets flattened into like Stucky,
They're just in love with
and
each other. Well, they are,
right,
maybe. Who
yeah, well,
knows?
and
Not me.
not that again, not the point I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to say is like, you know, there was. I remember Spencer, Joel, and I had this conversation where we were talking about like some of the most like beautiful, profound examples of like really positive masculinity in film and and just in media in general, because this is not limited to film what I'm about to say, but my exposure to it is. And Spencer went, it's Aragorn. Like
Oh,
Spencer like not even like missing a beat went, oh yeah, Aragorn. You're describing Aragorn. And me not being as familiar with like the Tolkien like mythos,
Spencer,
I
by
was
the
like, yeah,
way,
sure.
Fan Expo Philly next year. We're going, brother. You're
The
tagging
hobbits are
along.
there.
You're
But
coming.
like I and I think that like this is another one of those instances where it's like these are one of those depictions of like male companionship of like I will move heaven, hell, and the earth between it in your name. It is so powerful and it is so moving. And, again, we're not going to litigate Civil War right now. That's going to be a bonus episode down the road. But like to the point
Genuine
where like
litigation.
not right now.
Do I have to get a dissertation? I will. I'm just
You're
saying.
more than welcome to.
It's like
But like
150 pages, but okay.
but Steve is like low key, not low key, high key, willing to break up the
Not Loki.
fucking Avengers.
Ayo.
He is willing to break up the Avengers in the
For
name
the
of
love of his
you're not
life,
gonna
Bucky
touch my
Barnes.
boy.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
not. I'm like
Love of his
T'Challa.
life, romance, love of his life, friendship does not
Yeah.
matter. You're
In the
not
same
going.
way, it's that soulmate thing. Like soulmate doesn't necessarily mean romantic.
No, that's like twin
You
flame.
know?
Yeah, the same thing with like twin, like all of that fucking good astrology jazz. Is
Yeah.
not necessarily romantic or sexual. Okay, you can also just vibe with people who exist in the same room as you.
Yeah, and it's that existing on that like, on just like like our souls on a fundamental level are intertwined, and I love you deeply because of it. Steve Rogers was willing to break up the
Groot and
Avengers.
Rocket Raccoon,
Yeah,
Drax and Groot, and
Steve is willing to look Tony Stark and T'Challa in the eye and say, if you put
nah.
hands on him, I'm gonna put you in the fucking ground, bro. Please don't make me do it. Because I can negotiate on a lot of things. He ain't one of them. And I love your analysis on that so much, Taylor. As we kind of
no, hold on. I want to hear shut up, Jared. I want to hear
okay.
Spencer's thoughts on the Achilles Patroclus relationship of Steve and Bucky.
I am not familiar enough with the Greek stories of
I'll let you
Achilles and
borrow a book, and then I
Patroclus.
want to hear it later.
If you could see the stack of books across the room that have still not been read, then
I'll highlight a passage and then no.
Yeah, I think you know,
It's brotherhood.
it yeah,
It's love.
and the positive masculinity that Jarod is talking about, and that we talked about just yesterday impromptu,
Yeah.
involves it's not just about being tough and about being willful or being strong. It's about, and Aragorn is just such a great example. He's like the antithesis of toxic masculinity because
Loves his bros.
he loves his bros. He makes his commitments and he sticks to them. He's willing to put his immediate desire aside for the greater good. And when somebody that he has drawn swords with gets killed along the way, he's not shy about crying about it, like on
He
screen.
broke his foot when he kicked that orc.
Yeah, like he cares deeply about his friends, and I know like this is behind the scenes stuff that we don't need to get into it, but if you read like what we know about the Fellowship after the Lord of the Rings, that doesn't end with the destruction of the ring and the saving of Middle Earth.
No, it ends up with a very
like
homoerotic situationship for Legolas and Gimli.
um, I'm not going to
We'll
comment on
circle
that at
back
all.
to that.
But I think that you, Taylor, as the resident expert on Greek literature, can with authority make the case that Achilles and Patroclus had some kind of homoerotic relationship.
They do.
We're talking about J.R.R. Tolkien here. There is
It's okay.
no
They load
shadow of a
muffins
homoerotic idea
everywhere.
that came in his head when it came
I
to
don't
those
think
two.
so. I think we'll have a
I
very fun discussion about
let
that
Stay on
later.
target. I don't want him to lose his train of thought.
No, we'll have a
stay
conversation about it at his house.
Taylor, I am more than happy to defer to you in areas of your expertise. I don't want to flat out tell you how wrong you are on air. So yes,
It's
please
okay.
do come over. But
I would love to hear about how wrong I am at your house.
you could be here. Yeah, yeah.
I could be there.
I don't have much else to share on that specific topic other than that in the context of the MCU, and heck, even in the context of modern stories that are being told, I don't think that there are many better examples of uh, the love for another person that seems to transcend even the nearness of family. Like for all intents and purposes, Bucky is the only family that Steve has. His
That's
parents
true.
died young, best friends since they were kids. Like Bucky is the only family that he has.
Bucky is all
But
he has.
but when Steve surrounds himself with other family, it doesn't change the fact that he and Bucky are still closer to each other than a lot. Like, look at the world around us.
Yeah.
Jarod, we graduated high school with people who were first cousins with one another and didn't even know it. Like, being of blood relation is not irrelevant to this conversation, but the
Nope.
blood doesn't make the
I had
family.
somebody at a high school ask me if we were cousins, and they had the same very uncommon last name as me, and I was like, probably.
Yeah, but I think because of the blood relation, we have a uh, an opportunity to love those people in a familial way, but I think we see very clearly on display here that these are two people not related by blood, but that are closer than the best. Well, they are as close as brothers could possibly be,
They're,
in
yeah,
their devotion to each other and their commitment to
absolutely.
seeing the best out for the other one. And that even goes through flashing forward to Endgame. I bet you
Yeah.
any kind of money that Bucky did not want Steve to go back in time and then spend the rest of
Oh,
Bucky's life without him.
Spencer,
But
I want you to be
but
on the call for
Bucky
that.
Bucky recognized that in order for him to love Steve the way that he deserve, like the way that brothers love each other, is for him to put Steve's, like the
Makes
innermost
so
desire of
much
his heart first and cheer him on in that decision. So
hmm
awesome.
My thought before
Yeah.
we even go any further is that him leaving Bucky is him acknowledging the fact that the Bucky that currently exists is no longer his Bucky. And that is the acknowledgement there is that Bucky has grown as a different, like he has grown differently and in a way that is not no longer, well, oh God, we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, we have a few movies to talk to about that one. If I may, as we kind of wind down here, I have like a mild complaint about this movie that has nothing to do with its quality. Again, this is an incredible film. Um, I really like Shield stuff. I like the helicarriers and the espionage and the gadgets and the gizmos and the bases and the triskelion and like I like all of that shit a lot. And I think a big part of it is like how I got exposed to like how I fell in love with Marvel. You know, and I've said before, a lot of it was video games and cartoons. And every time I got exposed to Shield in those games and those cartoons, it was
Yeah,
like
it's the
Shield.
vehicle. Yeah, the shield is the vehicle for all things. Like you,
Yeah, like Ultimate Alliance 2, like Shield is this institution and it's going strong. And
yeah, shield is.
the first time I ever like I know I experienced like Shield stories watching Spider-Man the animated series. I didn't realize them until I revisited it later. But like I like Spider-Man Friend or Foe, this like bizarre semi tie-in game to the Raimi trilogy. You know, it's Nick Fury giving Spider-Man missions. And I like
White Nick Fury.
yeah, it was Nick Fury Senior. Um, that is the distinction in the comics. It is Nick Fury Senior, who looks like David Hasselhoff, and Nick Fury Junior, who looks like Sam Jackson.
Wow,
Um,
I want to see Nick Fury Senior's wife. What is she
um,
like? Is she a baddie?
Probably,
Sounds like it.
but like I like that Shield stuff so much. Like I remember seeing Avengers for the first time again, like because of my primary exposure to Marvel at the time, like being like, oh wow, like there this movie mostly takes place on a helicarrier. This is so cool, and like just being so just happy to see that element. And I have to say, like back in the day when this came out, it was a gut punch.
That
That
shield's
like
really
the
Hydra the
shield is
whole time.
gone. The shield is
Mhm.
gone.
Shield has been Hydra the whole time,
Yeah,
actually.
not only is Shield been Hydra the whole time, it's
The whole
gone.
time, actually.
And like
Jasper
that,
Sitwell, that guy who was in so many one shots.
yes,
He is Hydra.
you know, like that. I long for I long for a Shield that is in a helicarrier above the sky with Nick Fury knowing things nobody else is supposed to know.
Jasper is there too.
Sure, yeah, throw Jasper Sitwell in there. Sure, he could play
No,
Galaga.
he's bad.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like if I have one fundamental complaint about this movie that has zero relevance to anything at all,
You wanted Shield to rebuild.
I want Shield I always want Shield. I always want Shield to be this institution.
Jared, Shield does rebuild. I do fucking strongly remember
Yeah,
that from
in
Age
a
of Ultron.
bunker,
The
and it's
terrible
8
fucking
people.
movie I hate the most.
Oh well, even then it's 8 people in a bunker, and they're like autopiloting helicarriers to intervene during the Sokovia battle. Like I like it's something that just all that it's not that it never really makes me sound like I think it's bad. It's just something that disappoints me because I love that apparatus. I love Fury's relationship with the characters so much. Where like so often it is Fury, bumping up against Tony's headstrong nature, bumping up against Cap's, sensibilities, bumping up against, like, at least when he's younger, like bumping up against like Spider-Man being this kind of wide-eyed fucking kid, who like Fury knows is gonna like he's like, I know based on your career up to this point, you are gonna be a power player. And I just kind of have to deal with the fact that you're this pie-eyed dipshit teenager. And it's Fury's relationship with so many of these characters that like is the tone is set because of his responsibilities as the director of Shield. And I just hate that it dies here. And like I bitched about it when the movie came out, and I am just always gonna be like, damn, I wish I got more Shield. I want more helicarriers. I want more Triskelion. I want more of that intrigue.
Jared, you just unlocked a memory for me.
What's that?
Was when this movie came out, my dad was so pissed because he was like, "So why the fuck are we watching that TV show?" My dad was so pissed. Fuck. He was like, we leave the movie theater, and he was like, "So what the fuck was the TV show about then?"
And then he had to wait a couple
even
the Winter Soldier.
They ain't even Shield. And I was like, "Well, Dad, I don't know." And he was, "No, they ain't even Shield. I watched it." And I was like, Dad, I know, I was there too. And he's like, "No. Why do I give a shit about that Asian lady and that guy if they're not even a part of Shield?"
And again, like, and Agents of Shield is a great show, and I love what they do about like Shield, like having to reestablish itself fully from the shadows under the leadership of Phil Coulson. This isn't me shitting on Agents of Shield. Like the seasons of that show, I watched.
It was me. It was my dad shitting on.
It was your dad shitting on Agents of Shield, but like
so I just why that Asian lady is there, kicking ass because he thought she was hot. Still confused why she was there if they ain't even doing nothing. Yeah, my dad was like, "She's fine,"
but
Pittsburgh alum.
But yeah, it's just, again, it has no bearing on anything other than I loved how much Shield was in phase 1, and when we get to the halfway point, I'm like, okay, it's gone now. And this like fundamental part of the universe that I've always loved is just in the air forever.
It blew up.
But yeah. With all of that said, Spencer, do you have any final thoughts on Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
Only this one. I think a lot of film is like the leaves that fall to the ground and tomorrow they're gone. The ones that stand the test of time, the ones that people keep watching because they are still really good, very, very, like they vary broadly on what the content is, what the tone is, what the direction is. We're talking about. I'm not talking like the Citizen Kanes, but I'm talking like the Casablancas, right? Where there are things about this movie, and I only say that because I think the reason Citizen Kane has remained a cinematic powerhouse was more to do with the cinematography and the photography of the film and the techniques that were used than necessarily the content of it. That's my opinion. But Casablanca combines incredible filmmaking with incredible storytelling. And I think like 50 years from now, for example, which of the Marvel movies are people still going to be watching? I
This one,
think
yeah.
for the folks younger than us that didn't grow up watching the MCU as it came out, but are watching like kind of piecemeal, I think Winter Soldier is going to be one of the ones they come back to,
Hmm.
because it tells a unique story for uh, a specific time. Like you're saying, all the connections with the Patriot Act and stuff. Like it's very specific to the context of its time,
Yeah.
and yet so was 1984 when it came out. I'm going to make that
Right.
callback again. Like 1984 is just as relevant, if not more relevant, to informing our understanding of our society and the governing bodies involved now as it was then. And I think that's going to be true of Winter Soldier. It's going to, like, the content of it, the bigger picture messages and thoughtfulness that it provokes is going to be just as relevant. The characters will be just as compelling. The cinematography will be just as sharp. Like, I don't think that this movie is going to age poorly over
Hmm.
time. So if I have a closing thought, I would just say, if this film consistently is ranked among the best that the MCU has produced so far, yeah, we had the conversation earlier, but it's not totally undeserved. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
that comes down to how well the story is told, how well the tone of it fits the content of the message, and the characters that fit into it as well. It like this one is, in my opinion, going to be one of the few. As much as I love the MCU, they're not getting ranked on any American Film Institute top 100s or anything like that. But of the MCU, I think this one is going to be on the very short list of Marvel movies that people are still watching 50 years from now.
I 100% agree.
I think it is I agree with you. I think it's in a rare air that is shared with, like, the first one that comes to mind is Black Panther.
For
You
me, the
know,
Mm.
first one that comes to mind is Batman, Matt Reeves.
oh yeah, I think that's going to be up there too. Like in the
Is
like the cape shit that like stands the test of time.
100%. I think that the way that this film is done, I think the way that the characters are presented, I think this is one of those movies where you don't necessarily do you need the other films to like get a complete picture? Yeah, but if push came to shove, if you showed somebody this movie, they could pretty easily gather what's going on.
Yeah,
Uh,
give him a quick primer and then throw him in there.
and not only vibe with it, but like understand it and be entranced by it in a way, but like to be moved by it. And I think that is the genuine test of time, is whether or not people would still be moved by this.
I mean, I think you're right. I think that I think Captain America: The Winter Soldier is a movie. I think it encapsulates what like makes Captain America, the character and his stories. The story of Steve Rogers so compelling that it is that it is not a man who has sworn an allegiance to a flag. It's a man who's sworn an allegiance to an ideal
Mm-hmm.
and a core belief system, and that you know somebody
It's a
who,
version of Asgard is not a place, it's a people.
yeah, yeah,
Freedom is not a place, it's an ideal.
yeah, and and again, it stewarded this character through so many eras, through being a again propaganda comic, when he first started out, to being kind of brought back as a gimmick to be a part of the Avengers, through Watergate, through the War on Terror, through up to now, like in moments where the American people find it challenging to be like, rah, rah, I love this place. Stories about Steve Rogers go, it's not about a government body. It's not about institutions. It is about people and a belief system. And
it's about who we are and who we want to be.
exactly.
It's not
And
like we may be, selfish, greedy creatures, but it is who we want to be. It is
mhm.
the want to be better, the want to be selfless, the want to be there consistently for your fellow man. It is not about the immediate gratification. It is about the long-term needs of the people.
Yeah. And I think this movie is such an amazing character study about what makes Steve Rogers this timeless, amazing character. So, yeah, congratulations. I think the Winter Soldier's overrated anymore. I went on a
I
full
think it's my
character arc.
number one, actually. It
I
was
don't. It's definitely not my number one
and
because
two,
I love the comic booky
three.
bullshit, and I will go to war for my silly little comic book
Then
nonsense.
it was Thor, and then it was Thor 2. Or no, just kidding. It was never Thor 2. Uh,
But
it was Loki 2, if you want to count the movies that way.
there you go. But all of that said, I think you've reached the end here. Um, Spencer, I always feel rude skipping over you with the where can we find you?
Where can
Um,
we find you, Spencer? Is
in
it
that
You can
anywhere?
living
find me at
room.
my new crib. It's one of the only
Yes!
houses. It's one of the only houses in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, with a Buffalo Bills garden flag out front. So it
Ooh.
shouldn't be hard to track down.
It's okay. The
Uh,
Buffalo Man is my number one.
but yeah, so
I'll
don't
come over
find
and
Spencer.
watch the
Don't.
Bills game at your house,
Yeah,
unsolicited and
we
unwanted.
we will go to Spencer's house. You don't go to Spencer's house.
I'll do
Um, I'm sure he would welcome you in and feed you, but don't.
I would, as long
I
as
know
you
he
like
would.
grilled cheese and tomato soup.
I do.
I do.
I'd even make you a fancy grilled cheese. I bring my own ingredients. Uh,
Taylor, where can the lovely people find you, my dear?
they can now find me on Blue Sky that Jared made me get at Quicksilver Girl GRRL.
Indeed.
Bye. That's it. Jared, where can the lovely people find you?
You guys can
He
find
prompts me to
me.
ask him that now.
I never know how to dismount, and now everybody does the thing that Travis does, where they just go, Jared, where? And I'm like, I've been trained to wait for that response. Um,
And Jared, where can the lovely people find you?
you guys can find me personally on Instagram and Blue Sky at Dark Jedi 2552, and you can find the Nerd
Where can I
Academy
find you
podcast.
professionally?
You can find me professionally. You can find the show professionally at the Nerd Academy podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. You also go to the nerdacademypodcast.com. All of the show is on there as well, but you could also click the donate link so you can check out our Patreon. Patrons get every single episode of The Road to Doomsday early. This is being recorded
Very early, some of them.
very early. This episode is being recorded the week the Iron Man 2 episode came out. So for those
So
of you
they'll be
seeing
getting them
this,
less early from now.
yeah, I'm going to be making. I'll bring it up here. I am going to be making a post on the Patreon about this per Taylor's recommendation. The
Then Taylor
cadence,
can blame me.
the cadence is not. I'm not going to say the cadence is going to slow. The Patreon is going to be getting an episode a week, maybe 2 episodes, depending on other
Bonus
factors,
content or
bonus episodes,
anything
stuff
else.
like that. But the cadence will be typically one a week.
Yeah.
So the week you're getting this, the next week will be our next film movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. The week after
And
that will be
so
Age of
on
Ultron, etc.,
and so
etc.
forth.
So, as Taylor said, the
My
point
darling loves.
part of this was I want to have like a lot of content to like keep Patreon like booming and bustling. And I had a couple people be like, "Oh, I love binging the show," and I was like, "Okay, so I'll just put all of it out as we record it." And she was like, "That's insane because you're gonna run out of shit eventually, idiot."
I was like, so what happens in December when we run out of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Then we're watching
But,
Ghost Rider.
and everybody said no to that.
Yeah, it turns out we're watching Agents of Shield after all. But no, so the cadence will be one a week. Again, there will be bonus episodes. There might be weeks where it's like, oh, like if things get into a crunch, kind of vibe, I might pump a few out. These will still be recorded. There would
As
be
they
a
are
lot
now.
recorded and a lot banked up. But all of that said, patrons will get these episodes early. Again, this week we are recording this. Iron Man 2 Road to Doomsday just came out. So that is how far ahead we are on Patreon. Because we have 7 weeks built up from dropping all of phase 1 on Patreon at once.
Because we love you guys.
Because we love you guys. But all of that said, as I alluded to, next up is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. I'm very excited to revisit that and watch that beginning to end again for the first time in a long time.
And with my favorite actor, Lee Pace.
The actor I fan cast Fabian Martell with, Lee Pace. But yeah, all of that.
Of the Wood Elves.
I don't speak Tolkien. I've never even seen the Hobbit movies. But well,
I skipped school to watch those in high school, so
I know you did. But thank you. But thank you all very much for joining us, and we will see you on the next steps on the road to Doomsday.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.
Taylor said goodbye. My finger slipped and I accidentally hit the cookie cup button. Here.
Bye-bye.
There we go.